Okay, so it's been confirmed. Jamie TKV versus Frazer Clarke for the British heavyweight title is going to be taking place on BBC Two on October 25th. And it's a pretty kind of weird feeling to have big a big British event on free TV like this. Occasionally now you get the Channel 4, Channel 5 cards, which for the most part are pretty bad, apart from maybe a semi-recognisable regional slash British name, like a Josh Kelly, right? Whereas Josh Kelly couldn't headline a pay-per-view, but he could headline like a Channel 5 card, right? But you've got here two guys who, to be fair, in their own right, couldn't headline a pay-per-view, but, could comfortably be the third fight from the top. I don't think, maybe even a co-main for a decent-sized event, because this is going to be a good fight, in my opinion. You're going to be against both guys at British level, are seen as some of the better boxers in the division. I think Jamie TKV can be quite tricky and is able to, at times, have tricky timing and land those punches at a tough time for his opponents to deal with. Frazer Clarke, of course, with a number of good wins and, of course, been in there with Fabio Wardley, got a bad knockout before, sustained a bad knockout and, really looked fucked after that, if we're being honest. But, of course, you can't forget his Olympic pedigree. He boxed for Team GB, believe was a gold medalist. Or maybe he wasn't a gold medalist, but I'm sure he medalled at the Olympics. And again, like huge amateur pedigree. There's no higher amateur pedigree than being an Olympian and getting a medal, right? Straight up. But Frazer Clarke, in my opinion, a guy who I don't think he's been British champion before, because I think he fought Fabio Wardley for the British Championship, and of course he lost. So, of course, you're looking at it. Jamie TKV is a far worse boxer than Fabio Wardley, even if we're not talking in terms of actual technical boxing, in terms of guys who, are beatable. Fabio Wardley's hard to beat because he's such a big power puncher. Whereas Jamie TKV has been beaten before and was even stopped by David Adelaide. But I say all of that to say that don't write Jamie TKV off in this fight, even though I'm not going to be picking him to win. But Frazer Clarke is a guy who has been stopped before. Jamie TKV doesn't seem like a gigantic puncher, the same way a Wardley or an Adelaide is. But that being said, if there's an opening there, Jamie TKV, on paper, should be a good enough boxer to identify that opening and then make the most of it and maybe even win that fight. But if Frazer Clarke shows up the way we know he can show up and turns up in the way that he probably did going into that first Wardley fight and how he was previous to that second Wardley fight, we could be in for a win for Frazer Clarke, in my opinion, and could even stop Jamie TKV later on in that fight. Once Jamie TKV's probably been worn down a bit, Frazer Clarke works the body early. Come the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th round, we could even be looking at a Frazer Clarke stoppage. But yeah, feels good to have a big British event back on free TV, and I don't have to get a dodgy stream or any of these things. It's just going to be there to watch on my Sky. But yeah, I'd be super curious to know what you guys think of this fight. Do you think Jamie TKV could finally claim the British heavyweight title? Or do you think the title's coming home with Frazer Clarke? Be curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.